Hi there, Mrs. Elke here. Today I am doing a project based on the nativity scene, and I thought it might be fun to incorporate not only baby Jesus, Mary and Joseph, but an angel kind of overlapping all of them, and of course the star. So kind of a fun way to put all of these things into one. To do that, we're going to draw and then trace our design. And then I used watercolor to paint mine, although you could paint yours or color yours in another way. Here is my example one that I did. You can see I also added some fun patterns afterwards as well. It's a great way to practice paintbrush control, but you could also use crayons or colored pencils or markers to add some fun designs to your picture as well. So grab those supplies and let's get creating. I've got my watercolor paper ready and I'm just using kind of a 90-pound watercolor paper. I've got my pencil and a Sharpie. I'll also be using some watercolor, but you could use any types of colors that you would like. And I'm going to go ahead and get started. So I want to start kind of lower down on the paper, maybe about 4 fingers up from the bottom. And I'm going to start by making a circle. And you want to push kind of light. And I'm kind of going around a couple times so you can see. I mean, you could even trace like a quarter or something if you are worried about your circular drawing skills. And then I'm going to go a little bit higher from that and I'm going to make another one. Notice it's a little bit off to the side. And again, I'm going really light. I'm making it a little bit more oval shape and the oval's kind of tilted down. And then one more here, a little bit higher to the left, another oval shape. So those three pretty close together. And then straight up closer to the top of my picture, I'm going to do one more oval shape. So we're getting all of the head placement in for our figures right away. So I've got Angel, Joseph, Mary, Jesus. All right, now I want to kind of make these come to life here. So I'm going to go ahead and start adding some lines. I'm starting by adding a diagonal line that comes around and down on my oval on the right. And I'm going to do the same thing on the left, a diagonal line that kind of cuts through the oval and comes down and around on the left. You can see they go around that center circle and they can touch on the bottom if you'd like. I'm also going to kind of create these lines that go around the circle here for baby Jesus. And they're going to kind of go around the face and then come down and run into the lines for Mary so that there's a baby kind of wrapped in swaddling clothes looking here. Now I want to kind of make some faces so they don't look like just circles. So I'll kind of add a nose here and then maybe a little bit of an area where the mouth is and a chin that kind of goes up and then back. I'll do the same thing with Joseph. I'm going to make a forehead and a nose that kind of comes down. And then instead of a chin, I'm going to give him a beard. So that's kind of a little bit longer and it curves down and around. Then I'm going to make the back part of the head. So I'm going to go around the oval a little bit wider here and then off to the side, kind of like that. So it looks like they've got these, head coverings on. I'll do the same thing with Joseph. Go back and around and then down like that. I'm going to add a couple more lines kind of on the inside here. So it'll look like kind of an arm line. And I'll do that on Mary and Joseph, and you can decide kind of which one goes in front and which one goes in back. I put Joseph in front of Mary's. And then I think I want to do one more line that kind of comes down from their faces and then behind baby Jesus. So it really looks like he's, inside of the love of the mother and the father here. All right, and you can see kind of there's a little bit of overlap. I'm also going to add a hair, so I'm going to give Mary like a little bit of wavy hair that comes down and just kind of runs into her head covering. And then Joseph, I'll make some hair that comes back and then add his little beard that comes forward or I guess it would be mustache technically. And then you can add some hair on baby Jesus if you would like as well. So kind of make it your own. If it's not exactly like mine, not a big deal. And then I'm going to make some closed eyes or eyes that are looking down for all of them. All right, I'm keeping it pretty simple. Now I want to go ahead and go straight up from where Mary and Joseph's heads are, and I want to make a star. And to do this star, I want to make an arrow that points up and then an arrow that points to the left. Actually, it's kind of like the letter V. One that points to the right, and then one that points down. So 4 V's that kind of connect in the middle. And you can make them a little bit bigger, a little bit smaller. It doesn't really matter. And then I'm going to make some V's that go in between too. So kind of northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest, almost like a compass. That'll be my star. And then I want to make an angel that's looking like she's kind of above the whole scene here. So I'm going to make the hair first, and I want to make it a little farther down to make the angel look like the angel's looking down as well. So I have the eyes kind of looking down, and then the face here that goes underneath the eyes, kind of around and down. And I want to keep the angel really simple. So I'm going to go ahead and make some lines that come out and then back in for the arms. And it makes it almost look like the angel's holding the star, which is totally fine. That's kind of the look I'm going for here. And then, of course, we need angel body. And I thought it might be fun to have it all the way on the outside of Mary and Joseph. So I'm making it almost look like it's got a very wide, like a robe on that goes to the outside. I might even make it a little bit wider on this side here so that it looks like it's even on both sides. And then, of course, I also want to add some angel wings and maybe some angel hair. So I'm going to go ahead and do the top part of the head and just keep the hair pretty simple. Maybe a little bit of a wave to it. It goes behind the shoulders. And then the wings, I have all this space here on the sides. You can make them whatever shape you'd like, but because I want to go all the way out to the edge of my paper, and then I'm just going to make kind of some bumps like this that kind of fill out the rest of the space here for the angel wings. So I'm going to go bump, 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 and then down to meet up with the robe. Okay, phew. I'm going to add a halo, and that is looking pretty good. So I want to go ahead and switch over to my Sharpie now and trace all of the parts of my picture. All right, so I'm going to just go around all of my lines. I sped up this process so that I'm going quite a bit faster. So feel free to put me on pause if I'm going too fast for you. But I wanted to just go ahead and trace over my lines to kind of solidify where everything is. So I am using a Sharpie. I am using a Sharpie because it will not melt or anything or leak when I add water. So I wanted to use a permanent marker. If you don't have Sharpies, you could also use like a crayon to trace or an oil pastel. Those work really well with watercolors as well. So that would definitely be another option. But I just wanted to make sure that I've got all of my lines nice and strong, and I can kind of make sure I define my areas that I drew in so that everything is looking good. Going back over all of the lines that I have done to make sure that you can see them and they are nice and strong. So I'm going back over hair. I might, change things a little bit when I go over them again, maybe adding a little bit more detail. It's really kind of up to you and what you want to do. So some of my lines are moving just a little bit as I redraw them, but overall, I am liking this look here. There's baby Jesus. And then I think I want to add one more line here, just a little bit more detail on the head coverings of Mary and Joseph. All right, I'll go erase all of my pencil lines with an eraser, and now I'm ready to paint. Now for the painting, I also sped this up so that you could just kind of get the main idea. When painting with watercolor, the most important thing to remember is that you want to make sure not to paint right next to a section that is already wet so that your colors don't bleed. So I am doing all of these yellow areas first, and I'm going to go ahead and maybe add a little bit of yellow glow to the angel's clothes so that it looks like the angel's just kind of glowing. And then I'm going to jump to an area that doesn't touch the yellow, like the skin, and I'm going to paint that. Now you'll notice for the skin that I'm using brown, and if you add just a little bit of extra water to your brown, then it can help it look like a skin tone. It's really up to you as to what colors you use for the clothing on Mary and Joseph. I decided to go with different shades of blue, but if you wanted to go with different colors, that is totally fine. Maybe you love green, maybe you love orange. I mean, go with whatever you would like. Now I'm going around my angel with blue, and then I'm going to continue working on Mary and Joseph. So I hope to get kind of a base color on everything in my picture, and then I will add a little bit of other details as well. So I'm getting all of the clothing painted in, the skin tones painted in. I'm going to do the hair. I'm just making their hair black, so that should work. And I'm just going to continue to fill all of these things in so that it looks like it's nice and complete, at least with color, a base color. And then once that is all dry, I will need to kind of set it aside and let it dry. I will be ready for the next step. Now I want to go through and add some designs or patterns to a couple of different areas of my picture. So you can see I am starting with that little strip that I added on the head coverings of Mary and Joseph, and you can choose to do the same pattern like I am, or you can change it up if you'd like. It really is up to you. But I thought it would be fun to do maybe some line patterns and some shape patterns. So I started with stripes, which is a line pattern. And now you can see I'm doing polka dots, which is a shape pattern. And then I will think about some other ones that I can do elsewhere, maybe some rectangles here and some other ones as well. Now, you do not have to use the same patterns in the entire area, or you can even mix a line and shape pattern. Maybe I want to do a wavy line and then put little polka dots between the waves. So feel free to do that too. I'm keeping mine pretty simple, and I'm just filling in some rectangles here in this pattern. I also wanted to do a pattern in the angel's wings because it's such a big area. You'll also notice that I'm using a color that is similar to what's already there. So blue on blue and kind of a golden yellow on the yellow. However, if you'd like to use a different color, you totally could. So it's just kind of up to you and what you would like to do for your design. I'm also going to add a little bit more color onto the star so it pops out, and a little bit more color here on the hair. Anyway, thanks so much for watching and painting along with me today. I hope you enjoyed this project. For more fun tutorials, visit Elke Art.